Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm going to wait just a few minutes before we officially kick this off. But welcome. If you're just joining the Zoom room, feel free to use the chat button at the bottom of your screen to let me know where you're listening from tonight. I'm here in Seattle. Cassie is in San Antonio. Julie's in Denver. Where are you tonight? Hi, Samantha from Portland. Jolene is listening from Seattle. Welcome. Hi, Melissa. Melissa's listening from Vancouver. Teresa's in Cleveland. Alicia's in Kent. Hi, welcome everyone. So great to have you all here tonight. Hi, Amy. Amy's tuning in from Seattle. My name is Meghna Jarati. I am the event manager here at Booklarder, and we are continuing to bring virtual events to our listeners and our customers from all over the world and all over the country. So thanks for joining us from wherever you're listening from tonight. So we've got Brittany from Port Orchard, Anissa from Del Rio, Texas, Gail from Bend. Hi, everyone. Awesome. So we're gonna turn it over to Julie Bauer-Roth and Cassie Joy Garcia in just a few moments here. But as you know, tonight we're here to talk about Cook Once, Dinner Fix. See if I can hold up the book so the green screen doesn't grab it. Written by Cassie Joy Garcia. It's a really cool book. They're going to talk a little bit more about it, but I'm sure it's going to serve up a lot of weeknight dinner inspiration for anyone that's looking for a little extra something. We are going to go about an hour. We'll have some time at the end of the event for Q&A. If you have any questions for either Cassie or Julie, you can drop them into the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. There should be another button down there with two bubbles. Just drop them in there, and that way Julie will be able to keep track of them, and we'll get to as many as we can. The book, Cook Once, Dinner Fix, is available at booklarder.com. I will drop a link into the chat for anyone that's interested in checking it out. You can support this author talk by purchasing a copy of the book from us or from your favorite independent bookstore. All right, let's get over to intros. So joining us today is Cassie Joy Garcia. She's the best-selling author of Cook Once, Dinner Fix, Cook Once, Eat All Week, and Fed and Fit, as well as the creative force behind the popular food blog, Fed and Fit. Eager to share her healthy living secrets with the world, she started Fed and Fit in 2011. Since then, she's become a holistic nutrition consultant and transitioned her personal blog into a tremendously supportive and nimble online wellness editorial, backed by a small but mighty team of writers, researchers, and editors. After realizing that her own struggles to get a healthy homemade dinner on the table overlapped with the same struggles experienced by her readers, she decided that there must be a better way. The Cook Once method was born, and it has revolutionized how people cook. She lives in San Antonio, Texas, with her husband and two children. Cassie is going to be joining conversation today by Julie Bauer-Roth of Paleo MG, which is a food and fitness lifestyle blog. Julie is a blogger and a podcaster and the author of Julie Bauer's Paleo Cookbook. We're so excited to have them both here in our virtual event space. I'd love to welcome them to the virtual Zoom room, and looking forward to learning more about how to magically transform my leftovers. Thank you, Cassie and Julie, for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah, I'll just turn it over.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody who's joining today. If you guys don't have one of Cassie's cookbooks, get ready for this one because it is so freaking good. So if you are new to either me, Paleo MG, it's weird to call myself that, Julie or Cassie, I just want to give you a little background on us. Cassie and I have known each other since probably 2012, 2013, we met at a food conference, and then we just became friends. We started going to conferences together. We started traveling together. I was able to play a really small part in her first book. I created the fitness section for her Fed and Fit book. And so I got to work with her a ton in San Antonio. So we've just been friends for years, and I just absolutely adore her. And I know I'm very biased because I love her so much, but the thing that Cassie is so talented at is she is a fantastic cook. She really knows how to, number one, feed an army. She doesn't mess around with portion sizes. You're not going to have a little teeny bite. No, you're going to have these big, delicious entrees that are really delicious, that are really filling, that your whole family is going to love. And with this new book, she's going to show you how to cook not one, but two meals from one. It's really freaking cool. So I just wanted to get all that out so people kind of know your backstory. But Cass, how did you start fedandfit.com? What did it start from? When did it start? How did you really get going with it?
Thank you so much, Julie. That's the nicest welcome. And for Megna and the Book Larder team, thank y'all so much for having me, us. Yes, I'm Cassie Joy Garcia. I'm the founder, writer behind fedandfit.com and author of now this third book. And I started, gosh, I celebrated 10 years this past summer of Fed and Fit. And I think our anniversaries are around the same time of when we started.
Too.
Oh, you did too. Okay. Originally I started Fed and Fit really as a personal blog, just to share a little bit about my wellness journey. I found this kind of like the key to the lock. I felt like it was a missing key to the lock in terms of how to feel great. You know, this was back in the day when most of the conversation around food and wellness was really centered around calories in, calories out. There wasn't a whole lot of conversation around food quality, right? And how eating a certain kind of food could actually make you feel a certain way. And so I kissed a lot of frogs and I did a lot of diets. I graduated from college and I thought, oh, you know what? My pant sizes kept growing. And so I guess I need to go on a diet. And then none of them really produced any kind of meaningful results. You know, yes, I would maybe fluctuate here or there. And I got a little irritated and fed up with the fact that none of these programs were really working for me. And so I put my thinking cap on, dug into some of the literature, and thought, you know, I think there's something to anti-inflammatory foods. You know, like what if I just give this a go and start filling my plate with anti-inflammatory foods, eating less of the things that I think are causing inflammation and more of the things that can help reduce it. And in chasing that, I all of a sudden got this new lease on life. I had joint pain in my early 20s that I thought was I was gonna have forever. And all of a sudden it started to go away. I started to have more energy. I'm thinking more clearly, sleeping better at night. All of these things started clicking into place. And all of a sudden I couldn't have cared less about how much I weighed. And I was just like, wow, I feel incredible. And so it totally shifted my perspective in terms of what wellness was to me then. And I didn't want to give it up. And also I needed to get crafty in the kitchen because I love food and I was getting really bored of the dishes I was making. And so I started creating some recipes and sharing a little bit about my journey. And as time went on, maybe a couple of years, I just very slowly, folks started finding fedandfit.com, asking really great questions. And I wanted to be able to provide them with great answers. So I went back to school and became a holistic nutritionist so that I could help answer some of the more challenging metabolic based questions and personalizing wellness. And then I feel like I've just been a problem solver ever since, you know, just creating recipes that people are like, gosh, I wish there were a recipe for a homemade, what is it? Hamburger. Oh, what's the hamburger
Casserole?
one? Cheeseburger. Yes, like a hamburger casserole, hamburger helper. That's the one I was thinking of.
There we go. What I grew up on.
Yes. And so I did too. Folks would say, gosh, is there one I can make from home that's really easy? Hamburger. This is on fedandfit.com. But I was like, yeah, I would love to go solve that problem for you. Let me go see if there's a way to make one that tastes just as great that's made with homemade ingredients. And so whether it's from just one-off recipes to an entire solution and approach to getting an easier, more approachable meal on the table, I feel like that's what I've been up to now for 10 years.
It reminded me of, in your book right now, you have this cheeseburger pie. Oh my gosh, it looks so incredibly good. Like, I wish I could express without sounding biased because I'm your friend, how good your recipes are, because they truly are fantastic, but they're very approachable. You use ingredients that are approachable. The way you write is very approachable. And so it doesn't feel overwhelming. And I say that because I have a husband who never cooks because I do all the cooking. And so when I ask him to cook, it feels a little lost. He doesn't know what to do. And he always turns to your recipes because he knows they're always going to be good. And he knows that he won't feel overwhelmed with trying to figure out what the ingredients are and then start annoying me when I'm like, hey, this is supposed to be your business. I just saw someone wrote, Anissa said her recipes are so good, and they truly are.
Oh.
And so one of my questions is, if for people who don't know, you're a mother to two, and then you have another little babe in the oven right now. So you're pregnant with your third, and something, yes, you can't see barely below that screen. So she's ready to go with this third one. Cassie is truly so inspiring because I don't have children, and the thought of children really freaks me out because there's so much work, but Cassie does it with such ease. And I want to know, do you think the way you have taken care of yourself during pregnancy and post-pregnancy, when it came to the foods, the anti-inflammatory foods, the choices that you've made, do you feel like it's really helped you, those finding out that key to the lock back in the day? Do you think that's helped you with pregnancy and afterwards, and feeding your children? Because for anybody who doesn't know, Cassie's children, I was just at her house over the last weekend in San Antonio, and her daughter could have cared less about this cupcake. She wanted to see the frosting, and then she was going to eat pulled pork, and then she was eating some carrots, and she just wanted to have grapes and these little fresh fruits and vegetables, and she could care less about the cupcake. And I truly think that's the way you've taken care of yourself and taken care of your children. I pretty much gave the answer there for you, but do you feel like that has really helped as you have aged and you've taken care of your kids, and you've been able to pass along those things you've learned along the way as well?
Yeah, I do. I think that it has a big impact. And granted, my data set is two little people. But at least for them, I have noticed that, and in my fueling my body to build these little people, I have really found I think sometimes, what if I still felt that yucky like I did before? What would that be like to be pregnant or to be recovering, and essentially without knowing that my food was working against me the whole time. And so now it's like it just totally changes the way you see the world. Postpartum is such a pregnancy also, and preparing your body for pregnancy. I mean, these are all incredibly special times. But when I think about postpartum in particular and wanting to heal, and I was able to breastfeed our girls, for example, I could feel my energy wane and know that I needed more healthy fats, more hydration, maybe some more electrolytes, things like that. Those kinds of things that allow you to just see things a little bit differently, instead of just thinking, oh, of course I'm tired. I just made a human and birthed them, and now I'm feeding them. All of it, it's like, yes, you're going to be tired, but there's a difference between feeling depleted and going through something that's really strenuous. And so learning how to replenish my body, heal it through food, has really been very helpful. And then thinking about the kiddos, Grayson is 3.5, and then Bishop is 1.5. And so Julie was there. It's a circus. I don't know how else to describe it. They snack all day.
I didn't know children snacked that much, because I love snacking, and I remember snacking a lot as a kid, but toddlers and they never stop eating. It's wild. You have to have so much food in your house. I mean, and they step on half of it, but you got to have a lot of food ready to go.
You do, totally. They never stop snacking.
No.
And I think I have just found that, if I it's a part of it comes down to what options do I have for them, right? Because at the end of the day, they're not going to the store and picking up food. I am. And so I get to kind of help direct the foods that are available to them. And also, I like Julie was saying, I'm not against having indulgent treats in the house. If they want to have sweets or cookies or chips and things like that, they're there. But the way that I have learned in my effort to heal my relationship with food, right? Not see food as good or bad. It's just food and it's going to be different on your body. Like what works for your body is maybe not work for another, is just kind of present them both as the same. And I think that's really been a huge difference in that, at least, is thinking about, now you can have a cupcake and also look how yummy these carrots are. And you put them in front of them. And instead of saying, this cupcake is a very special treat, and you can only have it if you've eaten 4 carrots, then all of a sudden I've made the cupcake the reward and the carrots the work to get it. And instead, if I just like, here you go, have what you want. Next thing you know, Gray doesn't really have a sweet tooth, unlike her little sister and her mama. And so she'll lick a little bit of the frosting, get her fix, and then chow down on some carrots. And so I think part of it also is how I've presented the food, and then just encourage them to trust their own intuition.
Oh, Cassie, I love that so freaking much. Like, I swear I learned so much of what it's like to be an amazing mother from you just by staying with you the other day. It was like, whoa, I'm learning so much. And I absolutely love that. If more people could put that into place with this next generation and to trust your instincts and learn to develop a healthy relationship around food. Oh my God, could you imagine what our next generation is going to be like? We all have to learn from Cassie, you guys. But so one of my questions is, with this new book with Cook Once Dinner Fix, have your daughters, I'm not sure how much Bishop can, I almost said brisket, how much Bishop can eat, but were they able to test a lot of these different recipes? So were these recipes kid approved before you put them into process?
Yes, B was we call it Bishop B for short. I jump back and forth a lot between those nicknames. B was still on mama's milk by the time I think I finished developing all of these recipes. So, I mean, she took advantage of nutrients secondhand, but Grayson did. Grayson was 2 years old, which is, there's like this tipping point. A 1-year-old in my experience, I've had 2 of them. Again, my data set's very small, but in my experience of 2 babies between 1 and 1.5, they're just like, what? Food's amazing. 6 months to 1.5, somewhere in there. They're just really excited about food and they'll try it all. And then it gets a little tricky because at about 18 months to, I guess, infinity and beyond, they start to have tastes and opinions, all great things. It just changes the game. And so I feel really confident in saying kid friendly. Grayson, yes, she's an adventurous eater and she loves some savory kale, that I might serve with breakfast or dinner. But I think that I learned really about how to build a meal. I'm a believer when it comes to making dinner and making one meal. And I might, I might just have to eat my words one day and take that back. But so far, I feel like it's going pretty well, because what I found is that although I get to make one meal, how I plate it might be differently, for the 2 different people or the 2 different generations of people that I'm serving. And that's how I built the recipes in Cook Once Dinner Fix, is through that lens of how do we build a meal that adults are going to love and think this is such a fun dining experience. But if anybody is serving a smaller, like a child, these are easy to deconstruct and easy to serve up to a younger audience. And that's exactly how I do it, is I try to deconstruct it. So I just today, for example, made the Southwestern turkey casserole, and it's got sauteed veggies, peppers, and onions. and beans, black beans, and you might love it.
Already
And
do.
Julie has made so many of us believers in beans again. And then some corn, and then there's this chopped up turkey and then cheese. And so I would make this casserole and serve a casserole to an adult. And then to an adult, you think, oh yeah, that's great. Like a little plop of casserole, put a little garnish, some sauce on it. Sounds delicious. It comes with this creamy cilantro sauce. And for my kiddos, although they might pick at that and they might be a little curious, I know that they're going to dive in if before I stick the casserole in the oven, I take the beans and I put them in a little spot on their plate. The corn has a spot, the peppers have a spot, the turkey, and so on and so forth, the cheese. And it's like casserole deconstructed. They're getting the exact same dinner, but they get to see everything on their plate and really choose what they want to dive into.
Yeah, I saw that a lot when I was at your house. You had little bit of everything that they could play with and touch and try out.
Yeah.
So last night I told you I was going to try this, and I bought a 6-pound brisket. Going in, I've never even made brisket before, guys. And because I've always been so intimidated by it, and it's a big slab of meat. You don't want to screw up a big slab of meat, but I knew I could trust Cassie. And so this is from Dinner Series 15. The first one is her dry rubbed barbecue brisket. And then you cook a whole brisket, but it's a big brisket. So you're going to have leftover meat. And then I'm able to make cheesesteak stuffed peppers as the second meal. I have to show this on screen, what it looks like, because I can't see if it's on screen, but I think so.
You got it.
But I have to say, so my husband and then my brother-in-law was with us, and we loved the meal. Loved it. Oh my gosh, it was so divine, so freaking good. And we haven't made the cheesesteak stuffed peppers yet, but I've made a cheesesteak stuffed recipe that you've had in the past, and it has been so delicious. But this barbecue brisket was so simple to make, barely had to do anything. I popped it in the oven, went about the rest of my day, and then came back and just had to finish up everything. It was so easy and so delicious. So I want to know how you came up with this concept of Dinner Fix, and kind of tell people about the concept behind it and how long it took you to come up with all these different recipes. How many recipes are in the book? Give a little breakdown of what the book is like.
Yeah, I would love to. That I can't tell you how much joy that brings me, Julie, to know that you got to have your first brisket, and I'm just honored it was. I'm so honored. Okay, so this is such a good example. What Julie just illustrated, the brisket of the book. So my really core belief is that delicious does not have to be difficult. And so the way that I recipe develop, you might have found recipes online or in books, and they're fabulous. I love them. I am a consumer of these books and recipes. I love them. And what I have found though is that my readers are like, oh my gosh, that's overwhelming. That's intimidating. At least the ones that are coming to fedandfit.com, a lot of them. And now we have some confident cooks in their mix, but for the majority of folks, they're like, is there a way to make this as easy as possible? And so the way that I like to recipe develop is when it comes to making a brisket, for example, yes, I could complicate this. I really could. I could start with the most involved method to cook a brisket, but what I like to do is when I recipe develop, I slim it all the way down, trim it all the way back to the most basic possible approach. And then I try it and I say, am I going to get exceptional results with this really basic process? And if the answer is no, then I add on to there, right? Then I might add on a little layer, like we're going to pan sear this pork first and then stick it in the oven. You know, that would be exceptional results, but a very small minor tweak. And so I really like to make sure that all of the main proteins, whether that's from the animal base, the seafood, or the veggie chapter, are going to be the most basic but flavor forward methods possible. And so the book itself is built on our 60 what I call dinner series. And this is my solution. I was out to solve a problem. This is my solution to try to make dinner easier. It can be really overwhelming. And I don't know if anybody feels this way also, but at least in my season of life, even though I love to cook, I still sometimes I look at the clock and I think, oh my gosh, it's 4 o'clock again. What am I making for dinner? And it feels like, this uphill climb to make a meal happen. And then I'm in the kitchen, it's not super efficient. I'm grabbing groceries, I'm using half of the produce, like cutting an onion in half and using half of it and forgetting the rest, it goes to waste in the veggie drawer. Or I am, it's just kind of a frazzled process. It takes us 9 minutes at most to eat dinner. And our family, we're like, woof it down with these tiny children. And then all of a sudden I'm washing dishes for 30 minutes. And I feel like I've got nothing. I'm proud that I fed my family and I provided a meal that of course fills my cup, but it all feels like a rush and I'm hurried to get all of this done. And so I got that, just thinking there's got to be a better way. And if I could make a little bit more of one component of tonight's meal, store it, and then use it to help make tomorrow's meal or the day after or the day after that, whenever I'm ready for the brisket again, to pull it together, it makes that meal so much easier. So it's like doing future you this huge favor. It's not leftovers. It's not like you're having to eat the same barbecue brisket with polenta and slaw, right, all over again. You're able to make an entirely different meal, but it comes together so quickly because the brisket's already cooked and it's already going to be delicious. And so when you're washing the dishes or your partner's washing the dishes or who knows, whoever's the dishwasher, it's not a dinner's over, we've got nothing else to show for this meal. It's oh my gosh, we have such a huge head start on the second meal in this series. And I know I'm not going to have to think it through. I'm not going to have to plan it. It's going to come together really quickly.
Yes. And when we were in San Antonio over this past weekend and trying out your book, one of the meal series you did was Banh Mi inspired bowls was the first night. So we have this delicious pork, shredded pork. And then the next night you're doing, or whenever you do this, the meal 2 is going to be loaded nachos. So what I want to show with these 2 recipes is they're completely different recipes. So it's not like you're doing chili and then chili boats. It's like you're getting completely different recipes with completely different flavors, but also the flavors aren't overwhelming, because I know many people who are probably watching this, when you see a recipe and it has all of these ingredients, like you have to go specifically to an Asian market to get it or whatever it is, it can feel incredibly overwhelming. And then you're like, okay, well, I'm not cooking that recipe. It's not like that. It's all these ingredients you can get at your grocery store. She makes it really simple, but you're going to get 2 completely different meals over it. So your family and you are not going to feel bored. And then your second meal is so much simpler because you've already prepped everything ahead of time. And so all you got to do is pop everything together really quickly. And one of the things that was really cool is you give a lot of different cooking options I found in the book. So with the brisket, you had an oven option, you had a slow cooker option, you had an instant pot option, but then you also give options how to make something dairy free, how to make it gluten free, and you share how expensive or how affordable the meal will be. So just like if you hop onto Yelp and it has the restaurant with the dollar signs, $1 sign up to 4 or 5, Cassie does the same thing with this. So this Banh Mi inspired bowls and the nachos, these are going to be a $2 sign situation. So we got a little bit more affordable on this. And I just love all the different options you give for people, whether they're trying to stay on a budget, whether they're trying to follow a specific diet guideline. You give a ton of options in this book.
I love that. That means a lot. And that's what I want I want folks to flip through the dinner series. And when you're choosing the meals for your week, look at this. I just flipped open to, let's see. Here, I'll do a show like the seafood chapter. So this is shrimp and it's a $3 sign meal, right? And so that's going to be a little bit more, but the majority of the meals in here are where we found are $1 sign meals. And so you can mix and match. And that's kind of why I wanted to keep these as 2 dinners. So if you've seen, I have another book where it's really a meal prep book, and what you get out of those meal series, those weeks is what I called them, were 3 huge meals that all use the same ingredients. And what I found was that was really might be very helpful if you like to meal prep, which in a traditional sense, cook in advance, right? If you like to do that, it still felt limiting by ingredients because then you're obligated to chicken and sweet potato and broccoli for 3 huge meals throughout your week. Whereas with the 2 dinner series, the way that this is how I cook. This is how I have cooked in my own home for a very long time. And I don't know why it took figuring out putting this book together where I was like, oh, this is what I do. I finally get to share about what I'm really, really doing in my own home, but I mix and match. And so what I do is I will pair these dinner periods and cross them over. And so let's say you might pull something from the poultry chapter and something from the vegetarian chapter. And Monday is meal 1 poultry. Tuesday is meal 1 veggie. Wednesday is meal 2 poultry, and Thursday is meal 2 veggie. So you're able to overlap. And by doing that, also speaking of the dollar signs, you can kind of mix and match. If you want to try like this $3 sign, relatively slightly more expensive shrimp series, pair it with a $1 sign. All the vegetarian series, they're fabulous, and they all happen to be extraordinarily affordable. It's just sometimes how vegetarian food goes. Pair it with that, and then you're averaging out to a nice affordable plate. And we even did the math when the team was helping me figure this out and rack and stack and rank all the different dinner series as how they compare to one another in terms of average grocery costs. We actually found out that the average price per serving in the book is $4 across the board.
That's
Isn't
amazing.
That
yes, that's fantastic.
It was so fun to figure that out. I just geek out over numbers, but you know, just in my house, I have a husband who is somewhat addicted to Chipotle bowls. And it was just such a powerful sign to say, you know, he thinks of Chipotle as an affordable eating out option. And although, yes, I mean, there's more expensive options in the world, it's still a luxury to have somebody cook for you, you know, and you're going to pay for that convenience. But it was so nice to be like, well, these are $4 a serving. So,
and Austin loves to save some money. That guy is a penny pincher. So that must have really sold him on your book. Hopefully he bought one to support you.
I think he did. He was actually confused why his didn't show up yet.
Well, I think you've done a really amazing job with the vegetarian dishes because vegetarian, I feel like can feel a little stagnant. It's, you know, like how it just feels like to me as not a vegetarian, sometimes when I look at recipes, it kind of just feels the same. And you have such great options like this. Listen how different these 2 are. So you have General Tso's cauliflower, but then you have cauliflower tinga tacos. So you have General Tso and then cauliflower tinga, completely different genres. And so your meals are going to feel totally separate from each other. It's not going to feel like you're eating leftovers. Or we have vegetarian taco casserole and then tofu saute bowls. I know I'm like listing off, but I really wanted to list off a few of these. Pesto potato and mushroom pizzas. Those sound so good and look amazing. And then the next one is smashed potato bowls. So these all sound so good and they're so creative. Like they're simple. And pesto, potato, and mushroom pizza is like, that's very simple. People know those ingredients. Smashed potato bowls, that's very simple. You know those ingredients, but they're so incredibly just, I don't want to say nuanced, but just they feel different every single time. It's awesome, Cass. You did such a good job.
Oh, thank you so much. I'll be really honest with y'all. I committed to doing a vegetarian chapter because Benefit readers asked for it. I said, what are your wishes for my next book? And so many folks asked for a seafood chapter and a veggie chapter. And I haven't written that many vegetarian recipes. I mean, I have lots of them on the website, but they're not names. And I was vegan for about a year in my 20s. And so I've lived this lifestyle before, but it's been a really long time since I've developed recipes. And I procrastinated. I was like, I'll do that at the end. And I just was praying for the right inspiration. And I think this is my favorite chapter in the entire book, because when you really dig into it and you start looking at all of the incredible ingredients available to us through a vegetarian lens, it's just really amazing what we can find. I happened to flip open to this black rice salad. It's in a
I was just looking
Moroccan
at that.
inspired. Oh my gosh, it's so yummy. It is this Moroccan inspired rice dish, and the ingredient that weaves this black rice salad together with this lasagna soup, how fun is that, are roasted tomatoes. And so what you would do is, and I want folks to use this book. My hope for you, I mean, use it however you want, but my hope for you is that it allows you to lean into the seasons, what's in season right now. And so if you go to the grocery store and you just say, wow, cherry tomatoes, local cherry tomatoes, they're on sale, you know, there's a little local sticker on them, you know, the price is probably reduced because they are in season and local to you. Grab a whole bunch of them, roast a whole bunch of them, and then use them to make these two fabulous dinners. Roasting the tomatoes is what takes the longest time in both of these dishes. Is putting them in there to the point that they caramelize, and then being able, instead of just having a ton of roasted cherry tomatoes, now you're able to turn one into a lasagna style soup. We've got the big lasagna noodles through there and the ricotta cheese, if you want to put that in there. And the other one is this really fun salad with pomegranates.
And there's another one that sounds so good, this caramelized onion lentils. And then the second one is chorizo stuffed mushrooms. So obviously it's a chorizo style seasoning with these lentils stuffed in mushrooms. It looks so freaking good. You did such a good job with the vegetarian. So good job procrastinating, because it really came together.
It did, didn't it? We even saved it for last for the photos. And I don't know if it's just Kristen Kilpatrick was the photographer for this book. She did a phenomenal job. And I don't know if we just found our groove by the veggie chapter. I mean, I'm proud of the whole book, but there's something, this chapter will always have a special place, I think, in my heart, just knowing how fun it was.
And what is another cool piece, we've talked about like a million different things in the book that is so helpful, but you also do the nutritional information at the bottom of each recipe, so people can track the calories, the fat, the carbs, protein. And so if they are following, you know, any sort of nutritional plan, dietary restrictions, or they just want to keep in mind, like me, I love tracking my protein. I want to make sure I'm getting adequate protein in. And so this is a really helpful way to do that. And since you have that background, you can put that in the book easily, which is amazing.
Yes, that is, you know, it was how much can we squeeze into this book without, because I was at my maximum page limit. Julie's also authored some fabulous books, and you get to that point where you run up against the number of pages you can actually print. And so I hope that when you get your book, you flip through it and you think, wow, they used every square inch that they could to squeeze in information. And those nutrition facts, they're on every page, individual recipe page. Oh gosh, this is tricky. On every individual recipe page, and the nutrition facts are broken out by serving. So hopefully it makes sense, you know, when you're looking at it. So this teriyaki salmon bake with white rice and asparagus serves 4. And so you would just take 1/4 of that total meal, and that would provide you with the nutrition facts that we've got provided for you down here. And of course, those are going to be approximate, because you're going to drizzle a little bit more olive oil, or your salmon's going to be a little bit bigger, or whatever. I don't want you to really stress about it, but hopefully it kind of helps. It's a compass, I guess, in your hand to figure out where you're pointing. Like, for example, what Julie said, you're going to look at this and say, oh, this is a really great source of protein, this dinner. This has got 36 grams of protein in a single serving.
Amazing. So I want to let everybody know, if you guys have any questions, there's a little question and answer box. It's just down at the bottom of your screen. It says Q&A. Please drop any there. But Cassie, when people get your book, what is a meal? And obviously some people are vegetarian, pescatarian, whatever. If a friend got your book and they said, what should I cook first? What would be your first dinner series that you would say, this is my favorite? I definitely recommend this one to start with.
Oh,
because
gosh,
I would personally tell them now, either that brisket, because I've tried it, or those banh mi bowls and the nachos, because it was so freaking good and I got to taste both of those. But I mean, there's so many different options in here. But if you had to tell somebody, I guess I already pulled one because I asked you, I'm like, what would it be? And you told me the brisket, which is why I started with that. But is there anything that when you think back, way back when you were creating this book, that really stands out to you? You're like, oh my God, I love this recipe. I'm so proud of this recipe.
Yeah, I'll pick one from the poultry chapter. I mean, when Julie and I were chatting, I was like, you have to try this brisket. I would love for you to try it. But I think I could probably pick a favorite from every chapter. In the poultry chapter for chicken specifically, poultry, so it spans chicken, of course. There's also some turkey in there, and we lean on turkey breast tenderloins, turkey tenderloins.
And you have duck in there too.
There's a duck in there if
Yeah.
you're feeling adventurous. And again, just like the brisket, know that it's going to be an uncomplicated method to cook that duck. And I'm still going to walk you through how to render all the duck fat. So you can just be a kitchen hero and have duck fat fries and potatoes and eggs if you want in the future. But I would say this dinner series from the chicken chapter, it leans on shredded chicken. And the meal one is our chicken sloppy joes with a ginger carrot slaw. And then meal two is this white chicken enchilada with a tomato and avocado slaw or salad that goes on top of it. And these two meals are such a fun representation of how this dinner series in particular works. So we cook a whole bunch of chicken at once. And it's really no more work to make, especially when you're trying to have shredded chicken as your end result. So we start off with 4 pounds of uncooked chicken. And I say toss it in. I have walked you through whether you want to put it into the Instant Pot, the slow cooker, or the oven. There's all kinds of methods in there for you, like Julie said. But however you want to cook it down so that it's shreddable and then shredded. And cooking 4 pounds versus 2 pounds is no more work to you, really, right? Because you're already going to be cooking it, dirtying the same number of dishes. Cook all 4 pounds, shred all of that chicken, and then the first half gets tossed in with this really yummy sloppy joe sauce. And then we get to make, every meal has its own fresh component. So that you might be using some previously cooked, planned for leftovers from a prior meal in the future. It's still going to have its own fresh component to make it feel like a really unique dish. And so the sloppy joes are tossed with this really yummy sauce. It's really delicious, a little tangy, a little sweet. And then the slaw, which is carrots and radishes and cilantro, are tossed with some fresh lime juice and some other fun cilantro ingredients. Pile it really high on your favorite buns and have a really fun, delicious dinner. And then when you're ready for more shredded chicken, assemble that next night, 2 nights later, 3 nights later, whenever you're ready for it, into this white chicken enchilada casserole. And this might be my husband's favorite dish in the entire book. Austin really loves this casserole. Every time I guess as a recipe developer, maybe Julie, you can relate, but there's so many different dishes you make, throughout the year, that every once in a while I'll make something and he'll be like, wow, this is really good. I was like, well, you liked it the last 2 times too. We don't repeat that often in dinner because I'm constantly trying new things. And every time I've made this, he's like, wow, this is really good. You should make this one again. And I was like, oh, good, because it's in French. I really hope it's good. But it's this sour cream Mexican style gravy, cheese, tortillas. The chicken gets seasoned with some green chilies. Toss that together, some cumin, and spread them out. Make layers. Instead of rolling enchiladas, we're making layers, right? We're here for the easy. Bake it. It comes together so beautifully. And then while it's baking, chop up the tomatoes, the avocado, and the lime juice, and toss it all together. And you get to serve this really fun dinner that's it's like a world apart from sloppy joes with a ginger carrot slaw, right? But little be know, though, because you're the one who pulled it together, that was so easy because you did the prep with meal one.
Yes. And you have tips every time too. So it talks about how you can shred chicken easier, or how you can shred or almost like chop or finely dice carrots in a food processor. So you give tips for everything, which is really, really helpful. So I want to get this little question on there. Cass Samantha asked, where can we find shopping ingredient list on the Cook Once website? Also, do you have to cook the first meal listed first?
Great questions. The shopping lists are going to be on the website really soon. We are our developers trying to get those up ASAP. So hopefully by the end of this week, check back by Friday, they will be up. And we'll email, if you're on the email list, I recognize Samantha's name. And I have a feeling you are on the Fed and Fit email list. If you are, then you will get an email this Friday with all the information once all of those free downloads. It's gonna be, so on talking about running out of room in the book, we ran out of room in the book to provide you with shopping lists. So what a shopping list would look like is essentially I took these 2 meals and consolidated them and then filed them like a true type A person in order of the grocery store. So you've got your produce section and everything's your dry goods section, all of that is organized for you. And so those will be live and they're numbered and saved individually on the website. So you'll be able to look up, every dinner series has a number. This is dinner series number 2 that we've been showing you. So it'll be labeled dinner series 2. And so find your dinner series, find your consolidated shopping list. And then the meal plans she's referencing are, which are mentioned in the book, is what we did is we took how I was talking about those pairings of dinner series overlapping like that to get as more mix of nutrients in. We created, I want to say 8, there might be a bonus 2 in there as well, but at least 8 weeks worth of meal inspiration and provided you with bonus tips. So if you're weaving together a veggie chapter or veggie series with a series from the poultry chapter, for example, weaving you together with tips that really help marry those together. So those will be on cookonce.com soon. And then the other half of your question, do you have to make the first meal first and meal 2 too? No, I'm so glad you asked. No, I want you to make it your own, customize it to your liking, especially in the case of like shredded chicken or ground beef, shredded pork, those proteins. Obviously the brisket that Julie referenced, the brisket's gonna be best sliced the day that you make it and pull it out of the oven to serve it with those other sides, the polenta and the slaw. Like you're gonna have the most true fun meal experience when you slice it and serve it like that. And then do the stuffed peppers later, right? That's gonna probably give you the best results. But in the cases of the ground meats, the shredded meats, even the vegetarian meals, you can mix and match. And also, let's say you do a shredded pork series, you get a pork shoulder and your pork shoulder isn't a petite 4 to 5 pounds, it's a monster, it's 8 pounds, and you have 3 full dinners worth of shredded pork. I say find a 3rd shredded pork dinner in the book and use that and extend the experience, I guess, of that whole pork adventure. Stuff like that is, I think, how you can really customize it and make it your own.
That's what I was planning to do with the brisket. I was going to make the Mongolian bowls because I had to get a bigger brisket. So I was thinking about doing that, extending it. Okay, Alicia has a question. I have a shellfish allergy. Can you suggest a sub other than chicken?
Oh, that's such a good question. Shellfish allergy, substitute other than chicken. I have a feeling you're tired of the chicken suggestions, and I don't blame you. You know, what comes to mind when I'm putting my creative, and Julie, let me know if you can think of anything too. When I put my creative thinking hat on, if you are okay with a vegetarian protein like a tofu, I think that it depends if you get a really firm tofu and you press it. I learned a lot about tofu in preparation for this book, but if you press it and crisp it, you might be able to find a somewhat similar texture. I'm thinking like those blackened shrimp bowls, for example. Maybe able to get some really similar kind of, oh yes, very tired of chicken. I can imagine a similar experience. I would also say if you're comfortable cooking with pork, I think that a pork tenderloin might actually be a really great option. I'm a really big fan of pork tenderloin. I think that it is really easy to use and work with and packs a lot of flavor. And the way that I like to cook with it, and it almost becomes a nice alternative to chicken, is take your pork tenderloin, pan sear it. So if you've got a some kind of a pan that's stove and oven friendly both. Pan sear it with some ghee, some olive oil, put some fun flavors on it, whatever the flavors are that the seafood, the shellfish might call for. Crust that on your pork tenderloin, pan sear it to get a crust, and then put it in the oven. 375 for about 20 minutes is going to really cook it all the way through. I think pork you want to get to about 165 degrees. I want to say internal temperature if you have a meat thermometer. Otherwise, about 20 minutes will probably be great. And then cut it and cube it. That would be great. Or you could even not just do the oven roasted method, but take your pork tenderloin while it's raw and cut it into cubes, and then pan sear it and make nice little cubes or smaller pieces that you can use in place of that shellfish. Julie, do you have any ideas?
No, you're way better than me at that. I would have just said turkey. Ooh, duck. Do you want to try a little duck with some of this shellfish ideas? I mean, but I think pork is a really good idea as well. Now, so we got our recipes, we got to try. Do you think, because I know the answer, do you think this would be a great book to give as a gift for somebody who is not comfortable with cooking?
Yes, and I'm very excited. What a great question, Julie. I love easy questions. It's a kind of a fun insider tip, but I wrote Cook Once Dinner Fix. And then when I was working, it went through several editors. This book has been touched by many hands, and I'm so grateful for all of them. And one of the first editors that touched the book, I had a really great meeting with her. And she says, who do you want this book to serve? Like, who's your target audience? I was like, I want it to be a fun find for the confident cook, but also a trusted resource for somebody who's brand new in the kitchen. You know, I'm thinking about 12-year-old me when I was brand new to the kitchen and wanting to learn and curious and wanting to be in there with my mom. There was one book that I used. It was a cake book. And I loved it because it was painfully straightforward. Not painful. Then I was like, I just ate it up. But I baked so many cakes from that book because it was so simple and straightforward. And so I had told this editor this, and we spent, y'all, she says, all right, game on. You want this to be 12-year-old friendly? I will do that. And there are some 12-year-olds who are far more advanced than I am was then as a cook. So I don't mean to speak, about age in particular, but a very new person in the kitchen. That was the lens through which we then went back and essentially rewrote the whole thing, so that hopefully if you're the cook, or a young aspiring cook, or somebody who's not young but wants to get started in the kitchen, and maybe they're just curious and they want to see what fresh ingredients they can come up with, and I don't know, just have some really easy wins. I think that there's something to having an easy win in the kitchen early on that can really be great to develop a cook, whether you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 60s, you name it. So yes, I really hope, and I'm excited to hear about those stories of people who are using the book that, really for the first time. And to Julie, to add on to that a little bit more, something we had talked about this past week was, so in the dinner series, the way that they're broken up, these two meals, meal one is going to have a heavier lifting because you're cooking if you're cooking from the animal protein seafood chapters, you're dealing with raw protein, right? Raw chicken, pork, beef, shrimp, you name it. And that can be a little bit intimidating. But once it's cooked, it's a little bit less intimidating to use, right? And so this might be a really fun way to divvy up responsibilities in the kitchen if you have somebody. So I just flipped to this. This is such a good dinner series. This is it's Peruvian inspired paprika chicken with plantains and this really delicious cilantro creamy sauce. That sauce I could put on anything, with these stir-fried noodles inspired by Pad See Ew. Definitely not authentic. This is my take on both dishes. But for the noodle dish, the chicken's already cooked. And so the more confident cook in the house maybe tackles the paprika spatchcock chicken with the plantains, has the cooked chicken set aside so that the person who's trying to work up their confidence in the kitchen can then take on the stir-fry noodle dish.
Love that, Cass. That is what I'm going to make Brian do with me for sure. Okay, this last question. I love this question. Dinner fix is done. Is breakfast fix next? I love having so many leftover breakfast options that aren't all just eggs. New book
Oh,
idea.
that's a great idea. That's a really great idea. You know,
You're like, I don't want to cook another,
I'm
make
like,
another book right
oh,
now.
I
Yeah.
totally. Because I think the way that you and I both tackle books is like, you know, I've thrown my all into this book. And I hope that when you do get your copy, you can feel that and you can feel just the love and attention that was poured into it. I'm not to say no that Breakfast Fix isn't around the corner or maybe some other adaptation, but when it comes to how I like to write books, I really want to make sure it's solving a problem. And you just articulated the problem. You're tired of eggs for breakfast, and that's you're not alone in that. But I really think that if I can think about a way to, if there's a really big need, maybe. But it's like having a baby. I mean, I've had the human babies and the book babies, and I will say it feels a lot like birth. It does. And when you go through it, sometimes you're just like, I need a minute to think about if I want to do this again. But it's been such a joyride. It really is so much fun. And this is the sweet spot, is being able to create this resource and share it with you all and know that it might make and hopefully make a delicious dinner a little bit easier, a little bit more affordable, maybe a little more approachable, affordable, and save you time and energy. And hopefully, you know, what I think about what I want for you from this book is that when it comes time to put dinner on the table, whether it's for yourself, for you and a partner, for you and a family, that you're able to do that with just a little extra pep in your step, a little more energy in your tank, you know, and maybe from a little bit more of a joyful place, because you just, it's like now you've got a secret. It doesn't have to be a secret, but you've got a secret in a way that you were able to pull it off without having to just invest all of yourself to make it happen.
Oh, I love that, Cass. That's beautiful. Well, thank you guys so much for joining. That was so sweet of you all to join tonight to celebrate Cassie's launch. This book is fantastic. Buy it for yourself, buy it for a family member, buy it for a friend for the holidays. There's holidays coming up. I can't recommend it enough. And it's not because I'm her friend, it's because it's a fantastic book and so many people are going to benefit from it.
Thank you so much, Julie.
Of course.
Hi, Julie. Hi, Cassie.
Hello.
Hi, Meghna.
Hi. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. I truly felt like we were all just sort of like in your kitchen.
Good.
Hearing you talk about food made me really hungry. So thanks for joining us. And thank you to all of our attendees who joined us tonight in the virtual space. We hope to see you in the bookstore soon. As I mentioned before, we do have copies of Cook Once, Dinner Fix, there we go, available at booklarder.com. I believe Cassie is sending us signed book plates. So if you'd like a signed copy, we will have those available as well. Also, if you want to rewatch tonight's author talk, we will have it posted to our YouTube channel within 48 hours. So you can rewatch to your heart's desire or pass on to someone who maybe didn't get to make it today, but you think would really like the talk. That's all that we have time for today. Again, Cassie, Julie, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. It was really fun having you here in the space. We hope to see you in Seattle sometime soon.
Thank you so much.
Bye, Julie. Bye, Meghna. Thank you.
Bye.